I'm kind of like I think people like Michael Jordan. I'm kind of a unique kind of character.
And I have
the analytics
I love
you just see how games and possessions more intense, how they mean more.
I'm not putting him on.
I think the U.S. is going to obviously win.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Nothing But Respect. Before we get started, and for reasons that will soon be made hopefully somewhat clear, I'm now going to say one nice thing about every single person currently on the Oklahoma City Thunder's roster in alphabetical order. Brooks Barnhizer. I think it's cool that there's a guy named Brooks in the NBA. Brendan Carlson. According to an October 2019 profile in the Salt Lake Tribune, Carlson can do a standing backflip. Alex Caruso. I got him confused with Marcelo Huertas and when he was in the Lakers, and I thought he was Brazilian until like 2 years ago. Lou Dort. The Quebecois accent is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, our previous guest, hoops in his Converses and said they're awesome to hoop in.
I've heard that.
Yeah? Have you played in them?
I've not played in them, but I've heard they're good basketball shoes.
Okay. I mean, it's working for him. He just like has a step back three now. That's crazy. Like I was watching, anyway, we'll get there. Yeah. Isaiah Hartenstein, people forget he's German, but not me. Mm-hmm. Chet Holmgren was on the street in Minneapolis in 2020. Isaiah Joe, he was high school teammates with big Jalen Williams, which I think is beautiful. Jared McCain, Sacramento legend, #1, USA, let's go, victory forever. AJ Mitchell, UC Santa Barbara legend, slightly less permanent victory, yet we still love him all the same. Also, he's Belgian, probably knows who a lot of my cycling guys are. Nikola Topic, last name situation generally is rad. Aaron Wiggins, I have this like inexplicable fondness for Aaron Wiggins. I'm convinced he could be like the third best player on like 10 NBA teams. I love that guy. Jalen Williams, regular. It was cool that he got drunk after the finals last year and then was like, I'm over that. Jalen Williams, big. Being the first Vietnamese American player in the NBA is rad. Kenrich Williams, if you need to make a historic scoring record, he's there for you. I also showed photos of his hairstyle last night to several people to garner opinions, and one of them said it looked like testicles, which I don't really agree with, but I see where they're going for.
I get what they're saying.
And the reason that I'm saying all this, one, I fucked up the scheduling of this episode by 48 hours. And two, I'm saying this because our guest is Ringer staff writer, host of Wait a Second, author of A Little Blood and Dancing, and native Oklahoman, Tyler Parker. Tyler, how are you?
Man, I'm good. That's my favorite intro I've ever. I'm going to try to request that for any pod I go on now, just to like lead with some positivity. I appreciate that. His Kenrich's hair does look like testicles sometimes. Absolutely. No, I'm happy to be here. When y'all hollered at me about coming on and doing a pro-OKC take, I was like, oh shit, have they been like dogging OKC a lot? And so I went back and checked. I didn't like go listen to like a ton of the pods, but some of the stuff where it was specifically like name checked in the title, I took a gander and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I see where I understand the ocean that I'm swimming in now. So excited to be here.
Well, and it's important that you bring this up because Patrick has written positively about Oklahoma City. We have a lot of guests who have the kind of as an artist does, they have this kind of like anti-OKC take. I think we maybe as a podcast have been pushed to the right by our guests. Sure. Because I'm a little bit more of a OKC centrist than some of the guests we have on, but look, sure. you gotta say that sometimes you gotta let our guests cook. So I'm glad we're having somebody else on the other side of this.
I'm interested in because I did hear, I forget the guy, the Timberwolves fan who y'all were talking to, who did mention that, he felt like artists in particular couldn't get on board with this Thunder team, that's an interesting take that I had not considered. I don't quite understand it, but I appreciate like any take that gets down in the dirt like that one. Mm-hmm. And that's really like getting down in the dirt and getting nasty. And I like that.
Well, yeah, it's even if you don't agree with the specific contours of the take, the fact that it's being took, I think you just got to tip your cap, Oh,
you have to. I mean, I think y'all know, like I'm a deep lover of just takes in general. I think that it's very important for just the world takes. And so I'm not gonna throw a bunch of shade at people for just getting some takes off, because that's really what it's all about,
Many years ago, Chris Black, the now host of How Long Gone and an ascendant takesman, was on an episode of I think it was Failing Upwards at the time, and said Frank Ocean makes music for boring people. And I as a takesman, I couldn't do anything but tip my cap to it. Like, I hadn't even considered that angle of take.
I'm into it.
Yes. Sometimes it is a, you know what? I have no earthly idea where you're coming from on this, but I'm in awe of the destination. And so you just there's nothing you can really do.
God.
I think we were going in the same direction. And like, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is because you are a Thunder fan. And most of the time you encounter opinions about the Thunder, takes, to use the parlance of this podcast, they are not like universally negative, but there is a like negativity assumed to them. Like, what I find specifically fascinating about all this is like the way that they are villains. And I think that they are villains is at this point somewhat indisputable, but I think the nature of their villainy and like the ways in which that villainy is like constructed and mutually understood, I think are like actually kind of interesting. And as someone who has loved this Thunder team from like the second they assembled them and runs an NBA podcast and finds all this somewhat curious, I actually think it's very useful to get a Thunder fan's opinion on like the conception of their team. So for this section of the show, I just wanted to ask, like, what has it been like to be a fan of this team for like over a 3-year period? Like, not a long time. They've gone from like, something's cooking in OKC. They got all these children. They're really good at playing basketball, to 3 years later being like, we need to convene national tribunals to go after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's foul baiting, and Lou Dort needs to be sent to ADX Florence, and now Alex Caruso is using prosthetics to block shots. Like, these guys are villains. We have to do something about them.
It's been a whirlwind for sure. Back when they were coming off of that last year that they were taking, that sort of second tank year. It was pretty much that, like, it felt like they were pretty universally, if not loved, like enjoyed, you know what I mean? Like, and the team now still has a lot of characteristics of the type of team that everybody can get on board with. I think they play very hard. I think they like each other and play very together. I think offensively, even though sometimes it can be a Shai ISO show in late game moments, like the ball does kind of pop around, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I think there's things that, there were things that people could get on board with. Them kind of finding these guys in the second round, or these undrafted guys and stuff, and building through the draft is sort of, it's hard to like, I think that's a hard thing to hate on in any way, really. I guess it was sort of late in the season, the first season that they had the 1 seed, they beat the Pelicans in the first round, and then
4 close games too. Like, people kind of forget that was a pretty tight series.
That was a good series, and then the Mavericks series was a good series. I mean, it goes to 6, and there's that, Shai fouls PJ Washington on that little baseline jumper or whatever, and that's all she wrote. And it felt like near the end of that, there started to be some people that were like, all right, Shai's flipping and flopping around out here. Like, what the fuck? It's funny, like, we Thunder fans are pretty, like, well, I shouldn't say that, because I know a lot of Thunder fans are reactionary and get on any number of social media sites and fire off grievances. The way I have always approached it, especially like after having rooted for Russell Westbrook for years is sort of like, I've been through this. You know what I mean? Like, I've kind of been through the fire before. It's going to take a lot for me to like get my feathers ruffled, because I've never approached, like, I guess in my adulthood, like, I don't feel like I've ever really approached sports with the like, well, you should like my team. Why don't you like my team?
Yeah.
They're my favorite. You should like them. You know, like, that seems like kind of little kid logic. You know what I mean? So like, I've never felt like that. It's more sort of like, a lot of this stuff is kind of funny, right? Like, I mean, Harry, I know you're a Warriors fan. I think at a certain point when a lot of people were like, fuck the Warriors, fuck this inevitability. I fucking hate Draymond. Like, Steph is like cool, but he's prancing around all the time and making me feel bad whenever he's beating the shit out of us. Like, fuck these guys. I'm sure for Warriors fans at a certain point, it was just like, this is awesome. This is so funny how much they piss y'all off. And like, that's kind of where I am with the Thunder stuff, is like, it's funny how upset they can make certain people. I think when it happens to certain teams and stuff, it like kind of does like put the other team on tilt a little bit, in ways where they like, I think you see that when they play the Wolves sometimes, where just Finch has a conniption fit and just kind of gaskets blow. And I think it kind of seeps down into the team a little bit, like in the same way you would see with like Doc's Clippers and shit like that, where like some of that stuff does kind of trickle down and the players start to feel like they can kind of lose it themselves. So I've always kind of looked at all that stuff as like, this is a good thing ultimately for a team that I want to win, that they make people this mad. Right. But no, would I like the Thunder to be this, you know, universally beloved team that everyone is rooting for? Sure. But if I also want them to be like a dominating kind of team, and a team that could like win, you know, a couple or three finals in a 5-6 year span, like, teams like that aren't usually liked. Like, they wind up, people are exposed to them too much throughout, like, not just the regular season, but these deep playoff runs and stuff like that. Like, it's just, if you have any grievance, you're going to be able to find a lot of little examples of why you deserve to have that grievance, because they are playing so much. So it makes total sense to me that like people would get irritated. It is like, it's funny how mad people get. Like, I sometimes I am surprised that, like, because there's like sometimes people get mad about the Thunder in a way where I'm like, do you think that this is like a virtue of yours? That like, this is like, that you're a better person for this? Like, you know, that's not how life works, right? But it's, yeah, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking too much, but yeah, that's kind of the way that I've sort of, is that a good answer, or I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think one of the key things you hit on there is this idea that like villainhood is the cost of winning, basically.
Yeah, in every sport, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like it, yeah. I'm with you.
And the other part is, you sound like, you know, when you find out, you're like, fuck, why did shit poster, 470, like, stop posting all of a sudden? And it's like, oh, well, like, he found a wife and is like, lives a happy life now. Like, that's why he stopped like shit posting every day, you know, like that
Totally.
That's what you sound like. You're like, yeah, you know, I guess people are mad at us on the internet. That's not something I'm really thinking about all that much, because my team wins 75 games a year, which is totally fair.
Well, it's also like, it's one of those things where I try to, like, there's two different types of, this is overly simplifying it, but it's sort of like there's two different types of people that hate on the Thunder. There are the people that I think, like, they get mad at Shea for, trying to get calls and things like that, where the way I look at that shit is like, every scorer from like Jordan on has deployed pretty much the same kind of tactics. Like anytime I hear Kobe fans like getting like, you know, in their feelings about Shea, I'm just sort of like, you know, he did everything he does, he patterns after Kobe, right?
Did you watch
like,
Kobe Bryant play?
Yeah, like, and it, you know, even down to like, you know, guards like, you know, Dame, stuff like that. Like these guys, this is a thing that like a lot of, you know, perimeter oriented, like high volume scoring guards have done. And so it doesn't, sometimes with the Shea stuff, I am a little bit like, it feels like people have a very short memory when it comes to some of this shit. And they're a little selective when they get mad about it because the stuff he does happens throughout the league. Like, you know, so that stuff I can sometimes be a little bit confused on. Not that people are like, oh, what the fuck, but the people are like sort of especially what the fuck about it.
Right.
If that makes sense. The stuff that I totally understand is like when Dort pulls the shit in like where he backs into Jokic and stuff like that.
Or he like regards a screen, him being screened as like an invitation to combat, basically.
Yes, yes. Like, and so I like that sort of stuff. And certainly there will be times where he gets called for some shit and I'm like, and I disagree with the call, but by and large, I'm like, yes, this guy plays like a maniac and pulls shit that if it happened to me in a pickup game, I would be like, what the fuck, man? You know what I mean? So it's like, I totally get that sort of stuff. So it's not, yeah, I kind of fall on both sides of the fence. It seems like to me from like the outside looking in, it's like people that feel that Shea gets like an especially attractive whistle are very resentful of the combination of both that and Dort and Caruso being able to play physical defense on the perimeter. There's like a disconnect there. And so people are like, what the fuck? They're gaming the system. The way I can understand being pissed at that. And if I was a Wolves fan or something like that, yes, it would like make me crazy. It is funny to me that it makes Wolves fans and fans like that crazy. And I also think like physicality is like praised. It is the goal right up until people kind of experience it happening against them or to their team. Like it is like an ideal in sports. Like this is like, we want to be more physical than the other team, like across the board in contact, in any sort of contact sport. And then once a team really tries to do it, it is like an affront to, you know, society's mores or whatever. Like, you know, so,
Yeah.
so like that's kind of where there's something interesting about that.
Well, there's like two things that are interesting there is like during the previous grievance for the league's defining villains before the Thunder took over, the Warriors, the thing that people were pissed about is that they're like, these are these effete little 3-point shooting gentlemen. Basketball is about ethically just beating the fuck out of each other.
Right.
Yes.
And then the critique of the Thunder is basically the opposite.
Yes.
Which I think gets to both the idea that like, yeah, like your villainhood is eternal, but it's always like the ways in which it's defined, I guess, like says something about anxieties about the league. And it's also worth pointing out that like the team that everyone loves, like the darling of the season, the Pistons, they do this shit more than anyone. Like their whole philosophy is we're going to kill you on every possession. Like they're doing the Seahawks sort of foul on every play thing, but like
which has not been lost on me. But it's like that people will get pissed about that if they have a deep run again and they're doing that stuff in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's like it's cool right up until it's like, oh shit, but you're gonna like actually win doing that, like in a serious way. Well, fuck that. Like, Yeah, the Pistons are I love the Pistons, and they're one of my favorite teams to watch right now. Partially for that reason, because they are just like there's a proper identity there, and a lot of teams now, especially, just have none to speak of, and so it's like they have a personality, which is nice.
Yeah, the whole thing with the Thunder is funny because there are all of these, like statistical arguments for the fact that Shea and the Thunder, like, don't get more crazy calls than the average, zero guard attacking the basket person. Like, there's all these clear statistical realities pointing to the fact that Shea is not more of a foul baiter than Brunson or Cade or any of these people. But that is, of course, not how it collectively feels, which is funny. And I'm curious. I sort of try to investigate kind of like, okay, well then what's going on? Like how is this like very small mass psychosis event happening? And I have a few theories. The one is, like when your team is watching the Thunder, a number of things happen that all boil down to when your team is playing against the Thunder and you are watching, a few things happen. They all kind of boil down to like your team gets cucked. And it's like you are immediately going to lose the turnover battle, which means like you're used to 3 or 4 exciting fast break plays a game. Those are not happening. You're used to running a kind of smooth offense. They are going to like bump and move you out of your offense. They're never going to turn the ball over, so you never get that going the other way. And then like, okay, Shea 2 or 3 times a game gets fouled when he like initiated the contact, and that happens every single NBA game. But when like all of those things are happening and you are watching like a huge gap between what the game was going to happen in your mind and what is seeing on the court, you're like, well, fuck this guy. Like,
this isn't supposed to happen. It's like, they're not letting us play basketball. Like, why are they doing this to us?
They're not letting us win.
You're supposed to be able to initiate your offense. What the hell is going on? No, that makes a lot of sense, Harry. Sometimes that stuff where it's like you remember, well, I forget if it was like going into like the fucking 2024 election or what, but they were talking about like how, crime was down in a lot of these places. And then like, I think like Gingrich or some fucking piece of shit on the right was like, yes, but it doesn't feel like that.
Yes.
And that's kind of, and like, which is like one of the most
analogy.
Like, it's like one of the most pathetic kind of like evil things a person can say kind of to me. Like, it's like, no, I know that's what it is, but we're preying on people's feelings and selling them something that's not true. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the Shea stuff, where it's like Luka is 5 times the grifter that Shea is, probably. I mean, and like some people, Thunder haters, I think will be like, fuck that, like it's the same. But I would encourage them to watch some like full Laker games. Like, don't watch the highlights. Like, don't watch the 16-minute compilation on YouTube. Like, sit down, watch a Laker game, watch how he goes and talks to the refs after every timeout. Like, there was a thing that went around that got a little bit viral recently that showed Jared Vanderbilt following him from official to official. Did y'all see that?
Yeah. Just like babysitting him, just like JJ was like, you're not playing. You got to just make sure this guy doesn't get in trouble.
Yes. And I remember watching in the Thunder second round series, 2 years ago against them. And at a certain point, I leaned next to whoever was next to me at the game and was like, hey, it's every single timeout he goes and has a chat with one of the refs before he sits down. And sometimes it's 2. It's every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there has been some times where I'm like, y'all are getting mad at y'all are upset at the wrong guy. You know what I mean, or whatever. But that's also my own Homer shit, right? Like that's when the like, hey, don't hate my guy does creep in for me, which usually I can keep it away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah.
Well, I just wanted to bring something up here because this is another part of my kind of universal theory of the Shea hate is Luka Doncic is a Nike athlete, and I really do think that if Shea was a Nike athlete, we would just not be hearing any of this. We were talking before about the Converse sneakers. Apparently they are good, but like if you're just if the immense narrative power of Nike, obviously it would. I just think would be especially potent for Shea, and especially for somebody who, for better or for worse, like speaks in Instagram captions.
It sucks. I wish he talked different.
But imagine if he could run those Instagram captions through like actually refracted off of a kind of like third-party marketing thing rather than his like populist Instagram captions on Instagram. I do really think like the kind of lack of deep state marketing power moving Shea around creates a situation where the narrative is able to like run off on its own.
I think that's totally true, and I think this is like the perfect place to bring up the protagonist or antagonist, depending how you view it, of like what God better reward us with in the Western Conference Finals this year, Victor Wembanyama, because you have often accused him, Harry, of being essentially a Nike deep state plant. And if you look at the way that he conducts himself and talks about his own game, it does feel like it's almost like engineered in off the reflection of the Shea stuff, because he continues to talk about ethical basketball. We play ethical hoops. And I'm kind of like, my man, you're like 8 feet tall. Like that's why you're good. It's not because of your morals. Like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, if you want to play ethical hoops, every time you touch the ball, the rim immediately shoots up to 12 feet tall. Like, you want to play some ethical hoops? No, I mean, Wemby's amazing. I am one of the people that kind of rolls my eyes a little bit at some of the Wemby stuff.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah. I mean, like he might be the best player in the league by the end of this season. Like, it's a matter of time, right? One of the things I have said, like, to other Ringer writers who are especially in love with him is like, yes, this guy's awesome. Do you think I would be fun to work with if every time someone like asked me about like a piece that I did, I was like, man, I work so fucking hard. Like, do you think that would be a fun guy to just like have around? You think that's a fun hang? And because I don't think it would be. That said, like, he does have the Nike apparatus behind him. It's a matter of time before they come out with some cool fucking alien commercial. You know, like it'll be awesome. Everyone will go nuts. I did love that whenever, like, one of his first pair of PEs or whatever, he had that kind of, he had like that alien insignia, like, the sort of standard alien thing. And they tried to say, I saw some of the Spurs beat writers at the time being like, and actually Vic drew that alien himself.
No fucking way. Come on.
And it's like, the alien that everyone draws? The alien from the 90s? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
So funny.
And so, like, that's my thing with some of the Vic stuff is like, he will dunk it and everyone will act like, oh my God, what do you even do with this? And I was like, he fucking dunked it. This wasn't, but obviously he's amazing. It's more like, let's just chill a little bit.
Tracing the Alienware like laptop icon and being like, I took this to Nike. That's really funny.
A crucial thing with both Victor and Shea is that they're not American. But I think people were, and as a lifelong Francophile since July 2025, my position on this has shifted a little bit lately. But like, people do regard Victor's frankness with this like sort of like curious endearment, where I think people look at Shea and his Canadianness and they're like, what the fuck? Why is he from Canada? Like, what is wrong with him? Why is he doing this? You know?
Yeah. I think there's also part of Shea, even though Shea is very calculated in a lot of the shit that he does, the clothes and the captions and shit, there is also some level of him where I think people do get the feeling like, oh, he kind of doesn't care if we like him. And most of the time that's endearing, but for whatever reason, I think with Shea, it just hasn't gotten there. And like Wemby to me could not be more earnest for the most part. Like he's a very, like he wants you to know what he thinks, and you know, he really wants to talk about how important winning is to him, as if that somehow sets him apart from other professional athletes who, as I understand it, also really want to win.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that doesn't really answer the question at all, I don't guess. But yeah, the Shea Wemby stuff. Wemby has definitely set his sights on the Thunder. Obviously, the Chet stuff is well known, but like, yeah, when he started to throw out that ethical basketball stuff, I was like, "Huh, you know you haven't done anything, right? Like, what's like?" And that will change soon. But like, there was, you know, he likes the mic. It's not like it. You could just go to the monastery and then people find out about that on their own. You don't need to take a professional photographer with you. Like, you don't need need to invite the New York Times to like come watch you work out and talk about all that stuff. Like, if any player doesn't need to do that, it's you. And those are choices, right? So it's kind of like it.
You can play chess at Washington Square Park in private. You could just go to a different park. You go to Prospect Park.
You could do it and tell no one. It's also like anytime people hold up chess as like a thing that makes them interesting is like, dude, I've known a lot of people that play chess that are fucking boring as hell. And they think that playing chess is their entire personality. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, we don't need to act like he's a fucking genius just because he plays chess, I guess.
Most of the people who I know who play chess do not play it in the kind of Washington Square Park, you know, genius way. They are like on Adderall, playing chess on their phone at like 4 in the morning, being like, yeah, I just fucked up this Slovenian 14-year-old in chess. My rating went up a little bit.
I am one of those people. I have been known to do the plank at the gym, and like while I am doing that, we'll be playing 3-minute games against guys from India and Korea, and people are always coming up to me and being like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And it's like, my man, I'm not trying to flex. I have a problem. Like,
this is just
But the Wemby chess thing, I think, is actually a very interesting sort of insight into his character, because like the whole thing with Wemby is that he's like 7'8" and has this huge wingspan, and it's like you can sense in the way that he talks about himself, and like obviously he's like also like this genius. He's a really skilled basketball player for his height, and you can sense in him this desire to be seen as more than his height, to be like, I'm not just the like 7'4" guy. It's like, I actually like understand how all this shit works. And like you've seen this with other huge guys in the past, like for better, like Jokic doesn't care, but like Shaq was always kind of like this. Like there's this anxiety about like, you guys don't actually understand that I'm more than how tall I am, which I think is like kind of true. But I do think it's also like that sort of insecurity at the heart of that like motivates a lot of this.
Oh, I think that's 1,000% true. And I mean, I think it's why they had a hard time convincing him to play the 5 at first and everything. And he definitely does not want to be seen as somebody who's just made the league because he's tall. Which I don't think he is. Like, I mean, if he could be 6 inches shorter and still be an amazing player. I think it's unfortunate for him that no matter how skilled he gets, the thing that sets him apart and the thing that does ultimately make him as special as he is the fact that he's 7'7". You know what I mean? Like it's It just is, you know, it doesn't take away from the other stuff that he does well, but it does give him a ridiculous advantage that he's 7'7", you know what I mean? So it's like, I can understand someone wanting to be like, no, but I'm here, like, I'm not just here because of my physical attributes. Like, I worked hard. I think that's one of the reasons that he harps on that sort of stuff, is like that he wants people to know, like, I'm not resting on my laurels. To me, the most impressive thing about Wemby is how hard he plays. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's why, like, it's ultimately hard to hate on him too much, is because, like, he's not lazy. You know what I mean? And like, I have a lot of space for players that aren't lazy and that are legitimately out there, like, busting their ass. It's like, that's one of the things that kind of, like, the reason I think that's not the reason I'm a big Shea fan, but one of the things that I love about Shea is that there's been no shortage of opportunities for him to kind of, you know, take it easy. And he just doesn't. And yeah, I think that those are things that a lot of fans and just people who watch the game in general kind of take for granted. And something that will serve Wemby, like, going well as teams try to game plan around him and become, like, more familiar with his game. It's like, he will always have the advantage of being someone who's just going to play super hard, you know, and it's like, that's not the case for everybody.
Before we move on, because Harry has done a lot of research in our next section, I do want to give you the floor because, you know, most of the people we have on are fans of other Western Conference teams and certainly other teams in general, and they're going to talk shit about your guys. So the floor is yours if you want to talk shit about any of the teams that the Thunder could play in the playoffs.
Any of the West teams?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, that's...
what do we think? The Ant Obama video, how much, did he get a second passport? What do we think? Like, what did he get for that?
It is interesting that, like, Obama's like, yeah, this is my guy. You know, Father of the Year, Anthony Edwards. My biggest thing with Ant, who is amazing. I mean, two things. The nickname Ant-Man, it sucks. And
get his ass.
His like that he has embraced it so much. I do think it reflects poorly on him. I don't care that his name's Anthony and that it kind of, like, makes sense. Like, I think that that's, like, actually a big red flag, that he wasn't immediately like, hey, actually, something else. You know what I mean? Like, he had the power to do that.
Yeah.
If anybody has the moves on the mic in a press conference to be like, I don't like that, Ant-Man, like, do something else, it's Anthony Edwards. The other thing with him is some of these commercials where he's, like, comparing himself specifically to other guys in the league right now that people think are better than him, like Jokic and Shea and Luka and Wemby and all that. They really reek of the, like, Samsung commercials where they're trying to make the iPhone look like the thing that's not as, like, cool or whatever, where it's like, hey, you know, if you're positioning yourself and as this is, like, proof that you are properly rated where you are. Like, you're way more worried about these dudes than they are about you. If you're like, and obviously I'm sure Ant didn't come up with that commercial idea, but that he doesn't have the wherewithal to be like, oh, this makes me look kind of insecure.
Was like an Android, yeah.
That is a little, yeah. Like he said, he's got the green bubble coming in. You know what I mean? And like that's fine. I don't, I like to each their own. But yeah, that was, I kind of expected more from Ant on both of those things. I mean, I've given my Wemby takes. I don't really have any like I kind of just like the Nuggets. I feel bad that Cam Johnson's shit the bed the way he has. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully,
Scam Johnson.
Yeah, hopefully Peyton Watson can come back and that they don't have to feel that as much. But like, yeah, I want them to be fully healthy. You know, that's my feeling about all the West teams. The Rockets, I think, are like fucking depressing, and I find Şengün to be pretty insufferable. Like, no one is going to top Luka as a complainer, but there have been times this year where I've watched Şengün and thought, okay, another person has entered the chat. You know what I mean? Like, this is he might have something to say about that. And yeah, I find him to be just a fucking traffic cone, really. And so I kind of don't get where people have him ranked. I kind of don't get it, I guess, for that reason. I think especially because, like, once they get into the playoffs, like, he's gonna be like in for a rough series almost no matter who it is, because like they're just going to be bringing him and Reed into pick and rolls every single time. So but I think that's the extent of the shit that I feel I would like to talk about my Western cohorts.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Harry, we both got off scot-free, although what's the point, you know?
Yeah. You're not so scared of Guy Santos, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, the Warriors, I always, like, I'm fine with the Warriors except for Draymond. Like, I'll always dislike Draymond for what he did to Steven Adams's, testicles. But that, like, some of that Draymond stuff is why I know I have to be just as irritated with the Dort stuff. You know what I mean? Because when Draymond was doing that shit and acting like, no, man, my legs just kind of go wherever, you know. I remember in the wake of that, some people trying to be like, look, he's not that athletic. He just kind of, you know, it makes sense. And I'm like, you're telling me that a guy that is basically 6'6", who can guard point guards and centers, is not athletic?
That's right.
What the fuck is going on here?
That's right.
Like, and so that's those are my Warriors thoughts. The Kings, I love the Beam, as anyone who has read anything of mine knows. I'm so sorry, Patrick, that they're not.
And with the 12th pick in the 2026. Yeah.
Dude, they should light the Beam on lottery night. Like, if you guys get a top 3 pick.
They need to find a way to reverse. They need to send it down into the arena and underground. That's more apt.
Light the Beam from that's an interesting thought.
Who will the Kings lottery representative be?
Hopefully they should have Jared McCain do it as one of the most
sure.
Greta Gerwig, another popular choice. Aaron Judge was born in Sacramento.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do it.
Yeah, Patrick Bradford.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so did you know that last week the Heat played the Wizards a couple times?
Oh, they did?
I saw that, yeah. So Bam scored 83 points. It was awesome. Just as a fan of narrative entropy, it was like super great for me. Like, I just did really like starting there. We've kind of been tracking the general trend of like this happened as a kind of beautiful act of basketball and then like immediately got transmuted into like take propaganda in a way that's it's a little kind of tiresome but expected. Yeah. What I was not expecting was, even in the rush to takeify every morsel of the of this 83-point game, I still felt like there were some takes untouched. I was actually kind of like surprised by the lack of creative and magical thinking I saw in the 83 point explosion. So I don't know. How did, other than those kinds of things, did anything feel kind of like under discussed in the in this point explosion for you guys?
Anything
if not, I have a few that I can lay at your guys' feet.
The A'ja Wilson factor I really appreciate as a big fan of their relationship, and the fact that she was there, and the fact that like one of them, like something I liked about watching most of this game is that there were all these successive milestones that he was hitting, and one of which was eclipsing her career high.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's much of like a take that reflects off that, other than like that was, as a big A'ja stan, like that was cool.
Yeah. I also like it. It initially read as kind of like, wait, why are we doing this? And then immediately shifted into like, this is adorable. Whenever they were in the press conference together afterwards, whenever they were on the podium together, at first I was kind of like, why is this? But then he seemed very happy to have her up there too. You know what I mean? And I love that it was. Yeah, I love that it was special for him that she was in the building. You know what I mean? Like that would be. If it's not a guarantee that your significant other is going to be able to be there to watch you, if you do just on a fucking, random March day happen to pop off for 83, to have like both her and his mom there in the building is like, oh, this is great. I'm so happy that this happened here and not like in Washington or something where no one would be there. But yeah, Harry, I'm interested in what takes. I'm really interested in this. What takes didn't happen? So
there's a lot of conversation about comparing the Kobe and Bam, of course. And the kind of like relative levels of fraudulence of those two 80 plus point performances. Sure. And here's the reason. Kobe won, whatever. First one, I'm gonna get us into my like this. I'm gonna start at low spice level increasingly. The first one is the first half of Kobe's 83-point game against, or 81-point game against the Raptors. They were playing a 2-3 zone, which is like the softest defense ever. Like I
weren't even allowed to play zone, or like, because I remember you weren't allowed to for a while.
This was in the defensive three era, because I saw them kind of like jumping in and out of the paint. But it was like the most dog shit middle of March ass 2-3 zone where Kobe would just like cut in and then kind of like drift out to the 3-point line, because until like 2014 they didn't realize 3 was more than 2, and so he would just like get it and just drill a 3. The second one I really want to key in on, and I've watched a little bit of Wizards. It does seem like Alex Sarr is having a much better second season. That is the most embarrassing performance I've ever seen. The Bam hung 45 real no asterisk points on Alex Sarr in the first half. Like, it is just like Alex Sarr is just getting completely dog walked by Bam. Like, I can't believe more people are being like, why didn't he do anything? Why didn't he punch him in the face? Why didn't he like sub himself out of the game? I'm shocked. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Wizards element, I think, is a crucial way to understand this, because like the primary argument against like the legitimacy of these points is that like all the stuff there, all the chicanery they were doing in the last 5-10 minutes, where it's like intentionally fouling other guys to get the ball back faster, like just running, like intentionally missing free throws to try to get rebounds for Bam. Like, all that shit is like obviously outside of the flow of a competitive basketball game. And yet my argument would be like, playing the Washington Wizards necessarily places all of that outside of the competitive flow of a basketball game in the first place. Like, if you're tanking, like the sort of moral assumption of tanking is that like losing ultimately like is kind of a low consequence thing. And so if you're saying that, you should be prepared to have a guy just pound the shit out of your number 2 pick center and just hang 83 on you because like you're saying that's acceptable. So it's like, to me, that is like a totally like that. The presence of the Wizards invalidates the unethical complaint about the last 5 minutes.
I could not possibly agree with you more. Their decision to not want to win makes the game a farce in the first place, ultimately. And so anything that happens to them, short of someone like trying to physically injure one of the players, is like in bounds.
Right.
And so it just doesn't, anybody trying to be like, this made a mockery of basketball is like, they're starting dudes who don't have pictures on NBA.com. Like, and I've been there. Like, I've been a fan of a team where I'm like, who's Charlie Brown Jr.? You know what I mean? I'm there where it's like, is that Aaron Wiggins? He wears a headband sometimes. Oh, that's somebody who they signed yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, like it, when you've got that stuff going on, it's like you fucking deal with it. You know, like it's just like whatever you get, you kind of deserve. I mean, that's generally how I feel.
Okay, third one, and then I'll get to my real haymaker. But the third one is actually kind of a headier one, which was like, I was thinking there's all this talk about like, oh, Bam is he would be the last person I would expect to score 83. And of course, in a certain sense, he is. I went back and I watched the 81, stuff, and I watched the 83, and like one thing that really jumped out, because there's bad defense getting played in both, of course, right? They're fucking up. The defensive schematic complexity in today's NBA is so much more than in 2006 or whatever when Kobe did that. And like they were playing like they would show Kobe 2, but they would just sort of let him take threes. They would whatever. And once he finally got going, like he was pretty easily able to like get whatever matchup he wanted. He was getting Jose Calderon switched on to him and like just, getting whatever shot he wanted. The complexity of the average NBA scheme in today's NBA is so much more complex. Double switching, they're back switching, they're helping the helper, all of this stuff. But when you are a team like the Wizards and you are just like lazy or undisciplined, I was struck by how many of Bam's points, especially in the first half, were coming from not a point of like Bam beasting or even Bam starting the offense, but a schematic misstep, I'm gonna way overhelp on a Pelly Larson drive and make this like completely obvious kick out to Bam and then not close out on him even though he hit 2 threes, and like that's how he gets to 40 or whatever. And I kind of just thought it was interesting how the two levels of bad defense manifested, and even going as far as to say that like a player like Bam, who isn't the main, I mean, he should have been that game because they didn't have anybody else, but isn't typically a guy who you write an extremely long scouting report on. You kind of like, okay, we'll gap him, we'll let him whatever. He can kind of sit in these soft spots of our general scheme, defensive scheme, is actually like, in a way, is the kind of person who would pop off if you are to, or maybe I should say could be the type of person if you are going to be lazy about the back end of your complicated scheme, and a guy who's good enough to punish you but not good enough to be like the number one on your scouting board is maybe the type of guy to score a huge number. So that was just a reflection on the modern NBA. But I'm curious what you think about that before I really lay down.
I really like this one. This makes like a lot of sense to me. It's like you see team point totals are going up way more, but also like scoring is increasingly evenly distributed. And so like the novelty, like the Heat scored a lot of points in this game, like as a team, but it's like the idea that it would be the same guy exploiting those gaps is like the kind of the novelty, I guess. Like, and so your argument sort of does make sense there, because it's like people would not expect Bam to score 60 or whatever because he is like a gap exploiter. But I like this. I like this theory a lot. I don't really have anything to add to it other than like really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. That feels very watertight, to be honest with you.
I do want to return to the Charlie Brown Jr. real quick, because I'm laughing about that a lot. One thing I mean, also, okay, to slightly relate it to Bam, this took place in Mickey Mouse March, like crucially.
Yes.
And this is like the groundhog seeing his shadow for like this period of the NBA season starting. Something I love about this part of the season is the quirky and interesting names that pop up on the back ends of rosters, like Charlie Brown Jr. There was a David Duke for a while. Like, there's a guy named Bez Mbang who played 34 minutes for the Jazz the other day. Like, I love, and it almost makes you believe in like sort of this like loose, incoherent sense of nominative determinism, where it's like, if you have a quirky, fun name, like you're probably not going to make the 15-man roster, but like the Pacers will give you a 10-day, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem. I think that the amount of Googling that you have to do when you're watching an NBA game among like tankers in March is really something, because it's not just, they'll have them starting.
Yes.
Like, it's one thing to like bring a guy in for 15 minutes and like, okay, we're giving, some Royce O'Neal equivalent, like the night off, basically. Like, he'll play 20 minutes and it'll be light work, and then, you head to the showers early. But yeah, when they're starting these guys, I mean, it's like, I didn't even know that Angel Reese had a brother.
Oh, totally. Yes.
I had no idea. And so then when I saw like Juju Reese, I was like, who is that? Where did he play? And then like, it's another like no picture on the website.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he's okay. This is opening up my eyes in ways I didn't know were possible.
Earlier in the year, there was like this whole like, can you believe that the Warriors have a guy who plays lacrosse? They got this Cam Spencer guy who's worked his way right. We are now on Cam Spencer's backup. Like the lacrosse guys, the lacrosse guy who's being like, "Come here, Rook. Like, let me show you what the NBA is really like." Like that guy is getting ticked for the Warriors now. So
it's beautiful.
Okay, let me give you my final take, which I shared a little bit to Patrick, but I want to kind of really get this off publicly. There has been too much arguing about Bam versus Kobe. There's like a lot of like, oh, this one matters, this one matters. It is, in my mind, a complete red herring. It is a complete example of the narcissism of small differences. The kind of like the petite bourgeois being kind of concerned about the proletariat. The real enemy here,
I'm so into this.
The obvious enemy is Wilt Chamberlain. Fuck Wilt Chamberlain, dude. His 100-point game is such bullshit. It was like we need to be thinking about his game as like, oh my God, remember when like John Wagner scored 100 points in a high school game? Like, it is sucks. It's not important. It doesn't matter. And I'm gonna walk through why, but I just want to make a moral argument here, which is like, when you are it can sometimes feel like we are Tony Soprano in the first episode of The Sopranos, where you're like, fuck, man, I got in at the end of things, right? We're doing poly market on drone strikes. Like, this sucks, right? The NBA is giving us an opportunity to be, for once in our life, at the bleeding edge of history. To be like, we got to see the number one real scoring. We are making history. We are going places with progressive technology in a small way that nobody has ever gone before. But we are obsessed with holding up the stupidest, most fake 100-point game of all time. I was looking up. First of all, there's no video of it. It's like didn't happen. Second of all, he's the only guy that has ever been 7 foot in the 1960s. 3. I started looking up the players he was playing against, and I want to like give you a breakdown of some of the people he was playing against. Oh, he was playing against plumbers, whatever. It's actually worse than plumbers.
Plumbers at least have the forearm strength to get a hand in a passing lane. You're saying?
Yes.
Oh, it's an honorable trade, man. I mean, people always need plumbers.
People always need plumbers. Okay, let me give you these 3 people who were ostensibly like guarding or playing against Wilt Chamberlain during his 100-point game. We got a guy named Johnny Green. Okay, Johnny Green was under 6 feet tall in high school, but that didn't matter because he didn't play high school basketball. He worked part-time at a bowling alley before joining the Marine Corps in the Korean War. He then grew 5 inches while in the Marine Corps and went to Michigan State and played a little bit at Michigan State. That guy, Johnny Green, was a 4-time All-Star. That
in the NBA?
He was like in the NBA. He was like a really good bat. That's like Paul George. Okay.
Wow.
Next, we got Cleveland.
He grew 5 inches. That feels like a tall tale about like Johnny Appleseed or something.
They did hit him with the freaking fucking Captain America like against the Nazis. Dude. They gave him like
they got some Tucci.
Yeah, they gave him like reverse Ozempic or whatever. Then we got the rookie big man Cleveland Buckner. Cleveland Buckner was the
great name.
Yeah,
really
this
good. This is like he could be on the end of a bench right now.
Yeah, Cleveland Buckner.
That name.
Cleveland Buckner Jr. is playing in the NBA. Cleveland Buckner the third, really. Okay. He was the 51st pick in the 1961 draft, so this was his rookie year. So I was like, oh, okay, well, there's not much on him. Like, wonder who was he drafted near? Was he drafted near anybody interesting? I found a guy named Bill Smith who was drafted above Cleveland Buckner, a couple picks above Cleveland Buckner. Bill Smith plays 1 season in the NBA before, in 1962, joining the Marines. And
he wanted to grow.
Joining the Marines. I'm sorry, not joining the Marines, joining the Army. And then he's going to go ahead and participate in the military engagement around the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay? So this is a guy with more draft pedigree than Cleveland Buckner, the guy guarding whatever. He played like 11 games before whatever. Then we got the last one, Richie Guerin. Richie Guerin is the veteran on the team. I think he is the best player on this New York Knicks team that got 100 hung on him. He was drafted by the Knicks in 1954, but of course could not play for the first 2 years of his time as a Knick because he was finishing his service as a Marine. Okay, so he gets drafted. He goes and is in the Army, and then comes back. And his second season after being in the Army, he is an all-star. This is just, this is unserious. The last thing about Richie Guerin is in a 1990 kind of nice slice of life piece about the NBA. The New York Times reported around the time of his death that he was the last NBA player to shoot a two-handed set shot. Okay, which is like great. You see a guy with a two-handed set shot, and you're like, "Oh, okay, like this guy was bullied in high school. Like he obviously has no fucking idea how to play sports." That is the guy who was guarding fucking Wilt Chamberlain during his stupid 100-point game. It doesn't matter. Bam has the most points in NBA history. Kobe has number 2, and I don't want to ever hear about this guy ever again. That's what I have to say about all of this. What do you guys think?
Being guarded, it's so funny to imagine someone who's like, I mean, everyone says Wilt is this like Adonis, like one of the one of the most like athletic tall guys ever to play basketball. It's so funny imagining him being guarded by a guy who's like has this like moral opposition to jumping as a practice.
Yeah.
So good.
It would be like if the entire league was full with the guys who come play basketball after lifting. It's
Incredible, Harry. Really good, Harry.
Yeah, evocative.
Like, what is the
Well, you got to keep your flexibility. You know, you don't want to get too stiff.
Right.
I mean, I guess like basketball players are probably making so much at this point that it's like all the plumbers in the union that these guys would go on to eventually join is like, no. He was playing basketball against Marines. Like he's not ready for this plumbing life. Like they're doing reverse plumber disparagement. The way I feel about the Wilt 100 is like whether or not it happened is like fundamentally, I think blows past like the most relevant part of this, which is like, if you score 100 in such a way that there is no evidence of it and the guys you were playing against all have red links on Wikipedia, and like that alone says more about the like legitimacy of the 100 versus like says more than like the question of this like very forensic, like, did it happen thing. Like
right.
if you have to ask, you kind of know the answer.
I totally agree.
My Wilt thing is that our parents were fed so much pro-Wilt propaganda from their parents that the number of times if Wilt Chamberlain got brought up today in front of my dad, he'd be like, he's a world-class sprinter too, right? Oh no, he ran hurdles. Can you imagine 7-footer running hurdles? And it's like they had to deal with a lifetime of that. So I understand them. I understand why they make it so hallowed or whatever. But I don't care too much about it. It's fascinating to learn the specifics of the guys on the floor. I had my own theories on their abilities or lack thereof. But yeah, that's well done on the research there.
I just remembered I have a Wilt Chamberlain connection, which is that I was at I don't want to dox them, a family event for a friend, and I started talking to her grandmother, who is like around, maybe she's definitely under 5 feet. And I told her what my job was, and she kind of like within 15 seconds was like, I fucked Wilt Chamberlain. Which is like, famously a story that a lot of people can tell. But I was like,
yes,
that's like, I'm very happy for you. Like, that's awesome. And she was like,
yeah,
yep.
That part,
like,
I believe.
that was the whole story.
Yeah.
It's like, that's awesome for you. I'm so happy.
That's great.
That is really cool.
The one like thing about the BAM 83 for me, that other than just the Wizards being shitty and not really deserving anyone's sympathy, or being like intentionally shitty, the defense that they played, particularly in the fourth quarter, whenever they were sort of trying to like build a wall and keep him from, it's some of the dumbest defense that I have ever seen played in my life. Them being like, apoplectic about certain foul calls. It's like, dude, you're just like, if you would just get out of his way, the way he's dribbling into you, he's going to fall down. Yeah. Like, he was so desperate for calls. Like, it was just that was kind of my thing, is like, people were focused so much on the fouling to get the ball back, or like him just like getting a touch and having like the slightest little bit of daylight so he chucks it or whatever. To me, it was like, if you play defense like this, if this is your idea of trying to not let a guy like explode on you for the record, like, you deserve every point that's getting scored on you. This is like, it felt like malpractice.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like, what I liked about the end of that game was, as everyone kind of understood that the competitive incentive had like totally changed. Like, it was really fun to see like Keyshawn Johnson and like Will Riley and everyone in real time realize like, okay, the stakes have changed. Like, it's not about like defense and offense. It's about this like it's like a totally different game with like
Yes.
under the sort of auspices of basketball. And I thought like, man, if Chris Paul was here, he would find a way to like either plus or minus Bam's points by 10x by like finding every little inch he could optimize. Like it was like, it's so true what you said, Tyler. And like, it was great. It was just so funny.
Okay, but I want to do one before we get you out of here. I do want to talk a little bit about your new show, because that was we wanted to talk about the this is a basketball / meta basketball / media podcast, and media falls into the part of it, and so it's called. I'll describe it for those who don't know. It's part of the Ringer. It's Tyler and Jason Concepcion. It's called Wait a Second. I'm enjoying it a lot. My question for you is, because I think it's kind of enlightening about the moment in media we're in, is like, how would you describe the beat or the sort of like narrative or editorial like framework of the show? Because I think there's some interesting stuff in like even how would you go about describing what that is. So
no, good question. And like, sincerely, something I have had difficulty doing is like describing like exactly what the show is. Like, to me, it's almost easier to just be like, these are the topics we've covered so far. And so like, you can kind of maybe get a sense for it. But yeah, like we've done stuff on like prediction markets, poly market, Kalshi, shit like that. We've done shit on, AI and like Anthropic and sort of like, drone warfare. We did a segment on them people thinking that Jim Carrey was a clone. The episode we recorded the other day is kind of one like, not like the JFK assassination in full, but like church commission stuff and like Joanides and like all this sort of shit. Like, and so the very first episode was about, ring cameras and flock safety and kind of like the surveillance state and shit like that. So it's the idea is basically like to kind of go back and forth between some things that are in the news right now that have been covered, but maybe like people haven't quite like steeped themselves in and understand like the full extent of it, or conspiracy adjacent type of shit. Conspiracies aren't really my thing. So it's my role on the pod is kind of a audience surrogate / like poor man's Andy Richter. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way that I view my job. My job on that is to try to not be so insecure that I don't ask questions when I don't know something. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is a role that I have on that show where it's like, wait, you're talking about numbers stations. Like, this is something I should know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I
had no idea either.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's just sort of shit like that. Whereas like, cause I have all sorts of triggers when it comes, like I'm always terrified of looking ill-prepared or that I'm just dumb. You know what I mean? Like that I'm, and this show activates that. And so it's been a fun kind of thing to try to just be like, you know what? Like no airs, just you're as you know what you know, and don't try to act like you know any more than that. And so it hopefully, the combination of Jason being very smart and knowing a lot and me trying to understand some of this stuff is a good balance. But yeah, that would kind of, I mean, I know the show description is like, those are always so wordy and silly and very corny, I find. but I think it's like, a back channel for all the, weird stuff that like, your group chat talks about, but doesn't quite like, hasn't necessarily gotten to the bottom of, or some shit like that. Right. So that's my long-winded way of saying kind of the way that I think about the show, at least.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense. And, I listened to the Poly Market app yesterday and thought it was great.
Thanks.
And I feel like the formula makes sense. I mean, I've been a fan of Jason's for a long time, fan of yours for a while. As a fellow veteran of the ESPN True Hoop Network from 2013, we gotta support each other's work. So just congratulations on the launch.
Shit, I forgot that you were. What were you doing? What were you writing about the Kings then?
No, my friend Colin McGowan was a writer. He ran Cavs the Blog, which was perhaps the worst named of all the True Hoop sites. And and I was like not a Cavs fan, and he was like, you should just kind of just like do some stuff for us, I guess. And so I remember I did their podcast. My first appearance with them was the podcast on the day that Lou Reed died. And at the end of the show, they're like, Lou Reed is dead. And I was like, oh shit. And they're like, Patrick, you're not supposed to curse. And they got all mad at me. And that's like the only thing I really remember from that time. And then True Hoop shuttered like 6 months later. So
had they not invented a censor button yet?
I guess.
2013. It's around the
But
time.
I read an interview about your novel, which I can see behind you, A Little Blood and Dancing, that you got your start with Royce Young for the Thunder's True Hoop site. So here we are.
Yes, that was. I was doing some shit with Jason Gallagher, doing like kind of like a basketball comedy thing that was like blog that got put on True Hoop. Like Henry took a liking to us and invited us to do that, and then kind of through that, Royce had seen some shit of mine. I think it was like some like terrible like Nick Collison post-apocalyptic diary or something or other, where, and I did that for a long time. I wrote something for them for a long time, but yeah, that was how, that was just my writing education for that time was just like, okay, like I gotta fucking do something. So yeah.
It's all about getting shots up.
Yeah. The two final things I want to say about the pod is, one, I knew I was going to like it from and I'm really not a video podcast guy. I'm a listening to the podcast kind of
guy.
Call me old fashioned, but
no, I'm the same.
In the first, I watched like the first minute of it, and I saw you had Tom O'Neill's Chaos strategically put in the on the set, and I was like that in a kind of like signal. I was like, okay, say no more. And then the only other like kind of point I wanted to make about media, like a larger point that your show I think is doing, is it's moving with the times. A shift in a certain type of media that I'm seeing, which is like pods in the early days, I felt like were either organized by a kind of topic, sort of like editorial sensibility, where I was like, this is a basketball podcast, this is a nerdy basketball podcast, whatever, or a vibe. It was like, this is you're hanging out with your friends, this is whatever. This is doing a fusion of the two, which is the editorial framework is a vibe. Like it's like we are kind of our editorial, like what topics we are talking about are connected kind of more in this like vibrational, like you can sort of describe it, or you can, as X approaches the rate limit, describe it, but you really can't actually describe it. And I think, for better or for worse, like we are in a era of pure media vibes, and I like, as somebody who isn't much of a consumer of the latter type of podcast I just said, of like just two people hanging out, I don't usually like that stuff because I want to like, it's just not my thing. Like I prefer to like be learning from the shows that
I get it.
I'm consuming. So I like this marriage where it's like getting it's doing the kind of like non-linear rhizomatic, if you will, connections but while still having an editorial framework. And I think that's both of the time and very smart. So that's my kind of read on it. And then the last thing I want to say before we get you on your way is I was talking to about your novel. I was talking to friend of the program and friend of yours, Haley O'Shaughnessy, because I was trying to borrow it.
Oh, the best.
And she gave, I gotta say, a rousing endorsement of the book, which are anybody can check it out. She was like, you're really gonna like it. She said, True Detective season 1, sense of place. And then she said, lots of great basketball references. So that's as good of a True Detective sense of place plus basketball references is like that's the next book I'm reading. So that's my plug on your behalf.
I appreciate that. That's very nice. Haley's awesome. One of my favorites. That's very cool that she said that. Yeah, there's probably too much basketball in there, honestly. Like probably if I had sales in mind, I might not have included a Mark West reference in the book. But you are what you are. There's Hakeem Olajuwon features very prominently in the book, and at some point during the editing process, I was like, how many times does he appear? Either his name or the dream, how often does that happen? And I counted, and it was 29. And I was like, well, what the fuck? If I'm really about this, then I need to get it up to 34. That was his number. And so there are exactly 34 references to Hakeem in the book, which was a fun call to have with my editor, where I was like, hey, just notice this. Any problems with me just literally trying to find 4 other places where I can insert him? Go for it, whatever.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
This is so nice.
I do want to issue a slight correction. I forgot to say something nice about Cason Wallace.
Please.
But I do have to say, on draft night, I remember he said something mildly disparaging about going to Oklahoma City, and then a year later was like, I apologize, quote, it's not that bad. So I appreciate someone who's willing to own their mistakes.
Yes, he was... I remember that now that you say that. I had forgotten that he was a little bit... There was a question as to whether or not he was all that pumped to be there. But no, thank y'all for having me, man. This was great. I'm going to keep listening to the pod after checking in, because it's fun to hear people upset about the Thunder. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm curious, how our fans are going to take it, our switching sides on them.
Oh, I'm sure that they'll be upset. Don't take it out on Harry and Patrick. They were just, sometimes you got to go to the other side of the aisle, get their perspective.
Yes.
Just asking questions.
Yeah.